you and I verse. We're gonna do a video on Moon and Virgo with the Sun being in Scorpio. We're gonna break down all the rising sounds first, rising signs first, the 12th house. But I'm gonna also give you all some sounds. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna go ahead and play some music real fast. So just bear with me for a moment while I get this all set up. All right, so we all linked up. And you know what I'm saying? We're going to go ahead and play this music for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and get ready for the rising signs, first the 12th house, right? And with that being said, go ahead and get your chart out and figure out what your first house is. And essentially, if you want to figure that out, go ahead and go on astro-seek.com and go to, I think it's like horoscopes or something like that. Or you could just scroll down to birth chart as well. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, you can go ahead and scroll down to birth chart and then enter in your time, date, and your place of birth. I'm saying, so you can essentially figure out what your rising sign is if you didn't know. I'm saying, so you can go ahead and follow along with me. But first of all, we're gonna go ahead and play this music for y'all. I'm gonna have it bumping at first. I'm gonna play it a little bit in the background, kind of just play my album in the background while I go ahead and do this. This song called Third Person on my Origins album. Conscious in pursuit of president, speaking dollars, that's my president. Elevated, overthrow the president, flowing better than it's ever been. A young Anglo-American, it's godly how we swiftly match the recipe. Indicatively, high by red zone and found myself. AU with the vision. Hidden inside 47, you'll be astonished. Chronic oop doda, smoking out my lungs. Pack a punch. Sour weed, make my eyes bleed. Broken vision fixed like my elemental malice. Mary Pat the child is screaming, my chakras balance. But I'm blessed, truly wanna thank you. Truly wanna thank you to my creator. Love renaissance to the fullest, it's all love from up above. Switching lanes, gripping on the wheel again to the fifth dimension. Face a whole 7 in a sit-in. Alright, so let's go ahead and break this down. So with Virgo in the first house, right, it's going to be worrying about your personal affairs or being kind of concerned about your individuality at this point in time. So keep that in mind that if you have Virgo in the first house, you're going to be kind of concerned about your personal affairs and things that are going on for you individually, right? Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and pause this. You do what I'm saying? And have y'all go ahead and hop in the building, right? I might just play a little bit later. But yeah, like I say, Moon and Virgo in the first house is essentially feeling comfortable or uncomfortable with your personal affairs. And based on those personal affairs, you're kind of worried about your individuality at this point in time, right? We're going to kind of do a little bit of a quick video, but you know what I'm saying, go ahead and actually tap into everybody's first house rising and ascendant sign and break it all down. So that way y'all have a proper grasp upon what's going to be occurring and what house that you have going being affected essentially at this point in time. Shout out to Paula Remy, you know what I'm saying? You said, what's up? So, or hi, you know what I'm saying? Hi. But yeah, shout out to everybody in the building. Make sure y'all hit that like button because we're going to drop a banger on y'all head top. You dig what I'm saying? Make sure y'all hit the subscribe button. And whenever you do hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell so that way you can stay in tune with the movement you need to be in tune with. You heard? So yeah, moving forward, we're going to break down Leo, first house, rising, and ascendant. And essentially for Leo, they're having Virgo in the second house. So Virgo in the second house is being worried about your values of your person, places, and things that you're around, right? So essentially, you're kind of concerned about your money at this point in time. And like, dag, like, am I putting my money in the right places to actually accomplish and begin to build more upon my wealth, essentially? Or the people I'm around, are they actually people that I can value? And I'm kind of worried, like, are these people influencing me in a positive or negative light? And that's kind of like what you want to be looking at. Like, it's essentially the people, places, and things that you're around benefiting you, and do you actually value them, or are they like non-valuable to a point that it's like, okay, these people that I'm around actually aren't benefiting me, and I'm not really benefiting them either. So yeah, kind of keep that in mind, and what kind of circumstance, situation you're dealing with. Like, are you on the hierarchy to a point where you do value these people, places, and things that you're around, and you're actually being critical about them, and they're being critical about you, but them being critical and about you, you're actually benefiting them, and they're benefiting you as well. Kind of keep that in mind, right? And like I say, are you putting your money in the right places? Like, so essentially, if you're investing in something, is this actually something that you could see benefits you in the long term? Like, for example, for me personally, like, I'm going and putting my put my money into my vehicle, right? I put my money to the shop, my vehicle to the shop, and it's like, is this actually going to be something that if I do fix it, is it going to, I'm saying, kind of keep my circumstance situation to a point where I could actually travel and things of that nature. But yeah, shout out to Evan Caress. Yeah, that's an interesting name. Ethan Caress, my fault. Sharis, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, left field individual asked, what's my opinion on history? I will go ahead and break that down at the end of the video because I'm going to go ahead and finish up the point that I'm on. And after that, y'all can go ahead and ask me questions and I'll answer whatever y'all want to answer. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's within reason, right? And that's a pretty reasonable question. What's my opinion? And keep in mind, opinions aren't facts. But at the end of the day, my opinion might be taken as a fact to a point that I'm going to spit some game on it. You dig what I'm saying? But yeah, moving forward, Cancer, first house, rising and ascendant, is dealing with Virgo in the third house. Ah, shoot, somebody kind of answered part of it, you know what I'm saying, right there. Jeff Kendall done spit some game on y'all head top, you know what I'm saying. Go ahead and check out what he said, 'cause that's very true, right? But with this being said, right, Cancer having Virgo in the third house is essentially having this environment that you're worrying about, or worrying about the neighborhood that you're around and things of that nature. And keep in mind, Cancer and Virgo are in a circumstance situation where it's a sextile. So the Cancer can see the opportunity about the right things to worry about, or kind of be concerned about their emotions and things of that nature, or concerned about the people that they're around and concerned about their neighbors and things of that nature. So it's like Cancer, don't try to care too much about what other people are worrying about in your environment. Realize that maybe you should just be worried about who you talk to in your environment. Are they actually benefiting you? And like to a point that it's like this routine and pattern that you're on with talking with them, is it actually taking you somewhere, or is it kind of putting you in a downward spiral, so to speak? That's kind of what you want to keep on your mind. It's like, are you seeing positive opportunities dealing with these individuals, or are you seeing negative opportunities? Like, for example, when you walk down the street, is somebody trying to stop you in the corner and sell you something all the time that actually isn't going to benefit you in the long term? We'll just put that simple as possible, right? Moving forward, the Gemini rising, first house and ascendant, is dealing with the Virgo being in the fourth house. And keep in mind, this is a square for the Gemini, right? So the Gemini is dealing with the learning process to a point that the Gemini has to learn to be a little bit more critical about their private matters, or be kind of more worried about their home or what's close to their heart. So essentially, you want to kind of keep a keen eye out for what's actually going on in your home at this point in time. Some things that you might not have noticed before, now you're kind of noticing, and you're realizing, okay, I got to have this certain conversation. And learning to have the right conversation and learning to be critical about the right things is essentially what you're dealing with at this point in time. Then moving forward, the Taurus, first house, rising and ascendant. The Taurus, first house, rising and ascendant, is dealing with the fifth house being in Virgo, right? And the fifth house is all about your expression. So keep in mind, you're kind of having the gift to be a little bit worried about what you're expressing at this point in time, or what's kind of on your mind, like, or your childlike nature, so to speak. Like, keep in mind, the fifth house is like the way that you enjoy yourself as well. So it's like whatever you enjoyed as a child usually will end up being something that you enjoy as an adult. You know what I'm saying? So like most people that like baseball and played t-ball baseball and played baseball all the way through the ranks, generally they're interested in baseball. So essentially, if, for example, if you're a Taurus rising, you might have the gift to be a little bit more critical about the World Series at this point in time. You know what I'm saying? Not to bring it to sports, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, that's a perfect example of it. Like things that you had a very large joy for in the past, and something that you actually enjoy doing at this point in time, and partaking in or expressing at this point in time, you're going to have the gift to actually express things in a more logical and practical manner. And things are going to be in a beneficial space for you, Tauruses, because at the end of the day, like I say, this is a more logical and practical time. As long as you're being practical and kind of working on the right things, and working on your vernacular, you know what I'm saying? If you want to be like an announcer for baseball, for example, then you can have the gift to actually express yourself properly, for example, right? Then moving forward, the Aries, first house, rising and ascendant, is dealing with the sixth house being in Virgo. And keep in mind, the sixth house is all about your routine, your pattern, and also your health. So essentially, Aries, try not to be too worried or trying to be too concerned about things that you can't control, right? You're going to actually just be dealing with, do you actually arrive to the certain place that you were trying to arrive to on time? right? Are you in the actual routine and pattern that can actually benefit you? And you don't want to be too concerned about things that are out of your hands, so to speak. But it's kind of going to be difficult for the Aries at this point in time. They're going to be like, shoot, is this something that I could actually be concerned about, or is this something that I should be concerned about? But whenever it deals with like the other part of it, like your health, right? Maybe you're a little bit more worried about your health, so you're trying to eat a little bit healthier at this point in time. That's actually something good to be concerned about. Like, you shouldn't just be eating bread, rice, and hamburgers all the time. You know what I'm saying? It's not always the best thing for you. Do you know what I'm saying? That's like just an example of it, right? So the area is going to be a little bit concerned about their health, the routine, and pattern. And keep in mind, this is also in conjunction. So the Aries may misunderstand. They might just say, oh, I'm doing what I individually like to do and being a little bit more externally passionate about it to a point that I'm not really concerned about my health. And that's a kind of a circumstance situation you might want to pay attention to at this point in time, right? The Pisces first house rising and ascendant is dealing with the seventh house being in Virgo. I almost said Aries, but yeah, Pisces is dealing with the seventh house being in Virgo, right? And essentially, the seventh house is the 180-degree angle, right? So you can either add on or oppose. So either way, it's really all about you being worried about things. So are you adding on to the right thing to be worried about? Like, for example, like say your partner's like a Scorpio, right? And they're about to have their birthday, maybe you should be kind of worried about what they want to have, you know what I'm saying? And worry isn't always a bad thing. Maybe you should be a little more critical about the way that you're relating and things like that. Maybe this time around you want to get a better gift or something like that, right? Perfect example of that. Or if you're on the opposition end, maybe somewhat towards this relationship is kind of off balance to a point that it's like, I'm being more concerned about this relationship than this other individual is. Maybe we kind of have to have a talk and things like that. I might have to be on the opposite end to the way that they're going about this relationship, right? Perfect example. And that's kind of a left field little thing right there. I read that comment, but I'm like, I might just leave it there, but we gonna get rid of that joint. Says something just very kind of weird. You know what I'm saying, in the chat. If you caught it, you caught it. If you didn't, you didn't. You know what I'm saying? So if you catch the live video, sometimes y'all be seeing some interesting things in my live chat. Sometimes people just want to be seen and things of that nature. And it's kind of just like, whew, if that's what you're dealing with and that's what you actually want to bring to the forefront of your life, hey, it is what it is. We're just going to say that. Shout out to Cameron and Mace. It is what it is. We say what we want. But yeah, moving forward, the Aquarius first house rising and ascendant is dealing with the eighth house being in Virgo. And keep in mind, this is the other side of the opposition. So also another misunderstanding, kind of alike to the Aries, right? So the Aquarius is dealing with the eighth house, though, being in Virgo. So essentially, the Aquarius is dealing with transformation, behind the scenes, and also rebirth. So kind of being worried about what you're transforming at this point in time, and worried about what you're turning into, so to speak. And that actually is a beneficial thing to be worried about. But keep in mind, Aquarius, you want to be unique and also be kind of your own individual. It's like you're kind of like the scientist to a point that it's like maybe you do actually need to look into the details of what's going on and see what you could actually transform in your circumstance situations, right? And you kind of want to realize that at the end of the day, you want to stay true to yourself, but you also realize that on the other side of your circumstance situation where the moon is, right? You're kind of in a space where you're misunderstanding that you might be a little bit too critical about what you're trying to transform or things like that. So it's like, don't change yourself up too much, but also stay true to yourself. So it's like kind of that circumstance situation where you may misunderstand. That's like, I know who I personally am, but I also know that I need to transform things about my life and things of that nature. And I also want to have things change for the better, right? And it's like you can only do things one step at a time. So, like, don't be too concerned about how fast things are transforming, is maybe how you should look at it, right? Moving forward, the Capricorn, first house rising and ascendant, is dealing with the ninth house being in Virgo, and this is the other trine based on them being an earth sign alike to the Taurus, right? So the Capricorn is dealing with the experience, or the morality, or the knowledge and wisdom, or like essentially traveling at this point in time. And keep in mind, you're kind of worried about your travel system or worried about your morality at this point in time. And you're going to have the gift to be a little bit more concerned about what you're morally dealing with, or like your certain morality, maybe you could actually impart some wisdom about why you're concerned about these things. It might actually be a very logical and practical thing. You're going to actually have the gift to have others experience, or you also experience the reasons why you're kind of concerned about these things at this point in time. So don't be too worried about your experience to a point where it's kind of like hurting yourself and things of that nature. But you also want to realize that you're going to have the gift to actually impart that knowledge and wisdom, reasons why you're worried. You know what I'm saying? Then moving forward, the Sagittarius first house rising ascendant is dealing with the square like to the Gemini, right? So the square creates that pressure to a point where you either learn or you're going to have a circumstance situation play out to a point where you have to learn, right? And you generally want to try to learn things instead of being forced to learn, right? Perfect example. Sagittarius may be an individual, they like to be far out, right? They like to kind of get a little bit too turned up for their own good, so to speak, right? And their status is they're known as like a drinker, things like that. And they always end up being an individual that thinks, oh, I think I can drive better whenever I'm turned up instead of actually being sober and things like that. But no, at this point in time, you should kind of be worried about that status at this point in time. And it's either you learn to smarten up and say, maybe I should just have my party at home or have my party in a space that I'm staying, I'm saying things like that. Or you're going to have to end up learning in the hard way, I'm saying, have your license revoked and things like that. We're going to just put it like that. Perfect example for the Sagittarius. Either you learn or you get taught real good, I'm saying? To kind of chill out and be a little bit more worried about what you're known for, right? So if you've already been caught up in that circumstance once, shoot, I'm just going to say you don't want to get caught up in that same circumstance the second and the third time, right? So Sagittarius, don't be so far out at this point in time. Maybe be a little bit more worried about what you're known for and worried about your current status or your career, right? Then moving forward, the Scorpio first house rising and ascendant is dealing with the 11th house being in Virgo, right? And the 11th house is all about your association or your public persona. So essentially, Scorpio is seeing the opportunity to be a little bit more worried about the group that they're around or the associates that they keep themselves around and things of that nature. This is actually a good circumstance situation for the Scorpio because the Scorpio can be so deep in the water to a point where it's like, yeah, I know there's certain things with this individual that I shouldn't trust or this group that they're around that, and who they run with, and you kind of disregard it because you kind of categorize it like, oh, this is this individual or this individual here, I'm saying they're completely different from other individuals because they're so close to me, so to speak, right? But at this point in time, you're going to see the reasons why you should be worried about this association or worried about this group and be a little bit more critical about that certain group that you're around at this point in time. And on the other side of things, maybe you're being so critical about things to a point where it's like, okay, I can see myself actually moving forward with this group and the certain details that they're a part of. This is something I can see the opportunity of working with, right? And last but not least, we have the Libra first house rising and ascendant, and they're dealing with the 12th house being in Virgo, right? So essentially, the 12th house is all about your dreams, illusions, your faith-based circumstance situations, and also false beliefs, right? So either you're feeling comfortable being worried about your dreams or worried about your faith at this point in time, or you're worried that something could be a false belief. It's kind of like the unconscious realm to a point where it's like you kind of got to wait till things go to the first house, I'm saying, and you have this moon in the first house whenever you're a Libra rising, right? Which is in the next, I think, like day and a half or two, I'm saying, depending on your geographical location. Right? So essentially, you kind of got to realize that, okay, maybe I should be a little bit more worried about my dream and I should actually work on my dream, right? And that's a beneficial circumstance situation. That's a higher octave thing to be concerned about. Like, oh, I want to achieve my dream, so I'm going to go ahead and work on that, right? Or if you're on the lower octave to a point where it's like, yeah, I'm really concerned and I'm worried about my faith and my false beliefs and am I actually believing in the right thing, right? So to speak, if you just spend all day thinking about, am I doing the right thing, instead of actually taking part and realizing in due time that this is the right or wrong thing, then shoot, you're kind of in a negative space because you're not allowing things to actually play out. You kind of just doing more thinking than doing. And sometimes when you spend more thinking than actually doing things, then it actually ends up being you just thinking about it. You don't do anything, right? So it's not like saying that don't think about what you do before you take action. But no, it's actually saying like just because you thought about it for 3 hours straight before doing something doesn't mean that same thought is going to occur in your mind over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're worried about who's going to see you on, for example, if I'm worried about who's going to see me on YouTube live video, you're probably not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I got to be in a space where I don't really care who sees me, and I got to be open to all creeds and races and things like that, and also all opinions and things of that nature, to a point where I'm not really concerned with who actually views my video, to a point where it's like I could actually have an all-encompassing message, to a point where it affects everybody, right? At the end of the day, we're all born in a certain place, we're all born at a certain time, and with that being said, my videos do apply that way, right? So if you're trying to be a YouTuber and you're concerned about who's going to watch you, at the end of the day, maybe you kind of are deciding to do the wrong thing, right? And my chat asked me, Nightmare Productions asked me, what's my opinion on history, right? So at the end of the day, history, like Jeff Kendall said, he kind of was already going into my opinion on history, right? And my opinion on history is that it's written by the victors, right? So the person that lost, or the group of people that lost, they don't really get to have an opinion. They don't get to tell their side of the story, right? Because we'll just say they're no longer here, right? Or they're kind of in a space where it's like their opinion isn't as prevalent. It's not actually shared as often, right? So that's number one. That's my number one opinion. But my secondary opinion on history is that history is kind of like telephone. You know what I'm saying? So it's like whenever you tell one person a story, at the end of the day, whenever the story gets passed down over generations and generations, certain aspects of the story won't really be true. So it's kind of like a fiction novel sometimes, to a point where it's like, yeah, this might be the way things were, but we're really not sure, because just because it was written down and things of that nature doesn't mean the person that wrote it down actually had a true thing. And essentially, my other opinion on it is, if you don't have corresponding circumstance situations, then you can't really find history to be accurate. So it's like, if you just have one account, and that one account doesn't correlate with other accounts at that period of time, then shoot, kind of out of luck right there. You know what I'm saying? That history might be false. So yeah, peace and love. You believe in all that. If y'all had any more questions before I peace out, go ahead and hit me in the live chat. You feel me? But if you had any kind of questions about this live or any of my videos, go ahead and hit me in the email in the description below, right? And also with that email, you go ahead and let me know if you want any kind of reading or things of that nature, and I'll send you a menu back. You know what I'm saying? And I got a whole circumstance situation depending on what kind of reading you're trying to get. So yeah, peace and love. You believe in all that. Stay safe or stay dangerous. I salute y'all for tapping in. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for helping yourself, and as well being in tune, you know what I'm saying, and actually expanding your own circumstance situations and being aware of your surroundings. Because once you're aware, then you can help other people be aware. And think about it this way: you share this live to 10 people, and then those 10 people to share this to 10 people. At the end of the day, whenever everybody starts sharing it to everybody, we end up becoming more aware, and people can be in a better circumstance situation, right? And they can be more aware of what they're actually dealing with in their life, so that we don't have people running around wild and being unaware. So yeah, awareness is key. Peace, y'all.